We'll start with a few comments on the other videos. First of all, you may notice that we have the final teaching up. I've been using the program Cam Studio to record the screen and Windows Movie Maker to then edit a little bit. And Windows Movie Maker seems to be a way to make fun of people who don't have enough money to buy real video editing software. And so after I spend a little while on editing the video, it somehow made a completely different video, the one I have edited, and so a lot of work was suddenly drastically changed, and you could say lost. But in this path we look everywhere for wisdom, and so when we see that Microsoft gave us that video, which you can now see as the final teaching, Microsoft mysteriously provided us with 13 megabytes of absolutely nothing. Very impressive, and I don't know that I can give you anything more significant than that. So it's now labeled the final teaching. You can watch it, enjoy. I'm no longer using the video editing software that gave us the great nothing, and I'm using the VideoPad video editor, which I got in a basic form from NCH Software. It's free. I just wanted to thank NCH Software for their excellent work. Shenzhen had a very interesting point about allowing. What I said earlier was that we allow things into our awareness and we allow things out of our awareness. But he had an interesting point. He brought up the fact that what we're really allowing is for things to flow out of that incomprehensible void that Microsoft gave us, and then flow back into it, to come out of the completely indescribable, incomprehensible unknown, and then to flow back into it. That's what happens with experience. And so what we're doing is we're allowing that. We allow experiences out, which interestingly enough means that we may then focus on them. We may focus on them. We allow them out. It means that they are born, they arise, they exist. And we allow them back in. That means that they die. They pass away. They no longer exist. While that's happening within that process of things flowing out and back into the void, shunyata, we may focus other things out, which means that we focus on them. We may focus in on those things, clarifying what they are. And again, as that's happening, we may allow that to happen without resisting, allowing it out, allowing it back into nothing. So I really like this way of putting it, and I think that that's how we will look at it in the future. A few other points. I just changed something. This is the 4th video, and things are already changing, and I just want to let you know that it's likely that that will continue. Things evolve, and I'm not attached to any particular framework, so beware of becoming attached to any particular framework, because that may cause you confusion and suffering. we're going to take the feedback and the advice of students and teachers alike who watch these videos, and we're going to make them as good as we can. Whatever we've done before, if that turns out to not be the best we can do now, then we'll just do something better. Next, an astute viewer pointed out the fact that previously I referred to emptiness in Sanskrit as shunyata. That's not the correct pronunciation, it's actually shunyata. And I appreciate that, but also don't expect me to try too hard to pronounce things correctly. You may also remember that I said that this is not a karate chop hand. And that word, while it is pronounced karate in English, is not pronounced the same way in Japanese. It's pronounced karate. The word chop isn't really used in Japan at all. The only time I remember it being used in Japan is that there's an interesting name of a restaurant there that I saw named Mongol Chop. It's apparently Mongolian food that someone is attempting to sell to Japanese people, which frankly I doubt is working that well. So today I'm going to look a little closer at this, at flow. Flow is change or energy, movement. Let's say that we are going to look at something. We're having some visual experience, and for now let's look at a particular visual experience, which is the experience of blank. So we're going to look at the blank screen behind our closed eyes. So if you close your eyes right now, you can look at that blank screen, and as you look at it, as you really look into it, for a little while you may notice that it moves a little bit. The murky mixture of dark and light may be moving slightly. There's change within it. You can open your eyes again if you'd like. When you're looking in that way, the first thing that was necessary was that you focused everything else out so that you could focus on the experience of blank. If you were seeing pictures in your mind, then you weren't paying attention to that nothing behind your closed eyes, and so instead of that you did focus all those other things out. You closed your eyes and then didn't look at images in your mind and could focus on the blank, and then you focused in upon it and looked at it carefully and saw it more and more clearly. In doing that, and just in doing that, it became possible to move from seeing just nothing to seeing nothing flowing, seeing that flow happening. And if you put your attention in particular on this flow and you focused nothing out, that means that it goes away because you're focusing on flow instead. If that's what you did, then this experience of seeing flow may have become quite deep and powerful. There are other ways of doing this. You may feel flow. So if you right now relax, if you maybe you're sitting in front of your computer, if you sit there and just relax, maybe take some deep breaths or tighten up your muscles in certain places and then relax them. You pay attention to that relaxation, you may find that it also kind of flows. It may not flow, it may seem very stable, but at times it may flow. You may notice it's changing kind of, it sort of may come and go in waves. There may be a little bit more tension now, and then later there's not so much tension, there's more relaxation. If you're doing that, then you are going from feeling nothing, which we're going to now call relaxation. That's a kind of feeling nothing. and you're observing how that is becoming the experience of feeling flow. If you want to hear flow, then you can just pay attention to my voice right now as I'm talking. You can tell that sometimes it's more intense and sometimes it dies away. Sometimes it's louder and sometimes it's quieter. You can hear those changes, and those changes are flow. Now, this flow is a very interesting experience. Oftentimes we have this triad of experiences. We see things, we hear things, we feel things. And oftentimes these three can become all jumbled together. They get all smashed together, and this is happening and then that's happening, and it's a big mishmash of stuff, and we don't even know what's happening anymore. We get all tangled up together. And a lot of the work that we do in mindfulness is about separating out experience so that we can make it manageable. What's quite interesting, though, is that once we get to a certain point of focusing in on our experience and making it very clear, and we make these all quite separate in that way. If we get to a certain point of doing that, when we focus in very clearly, then there comes a point when what we end up experiencing is flow. And that flow is the deep inherent unity of all things. So that which gives us life, that which gives us energy, the qi in Chinese, the hua in Hebrew, the prana in Sanskrit, the ni in Lakota, the spiritus in Latin, which is now what we call spirit. All of this is about the underlying unifying flow that is within all things. Now, when we're working with this flow, if there is flow, then there cannot be problems. Flow resolves problems. Wherever there is a problem, it's because that problem is not flowing. And we see that when someone's feeling bad, it's helpful to them just to say the words, well, everything changes. This too shall pass, we might say. And the experience of flow is the realization that it's not that this too shall pass, it's that this too is passing, along with everything else in this moment. And that experience of observing that directly is incredibly fulfilling. I want to mention in this, we've talked quite a bit about flow and its relationship with focus, but its relationship with allowing is also quite important. The reason that it's possible for us to experience flow is that we're not getting fixated, we're not getting overly attached to an experience. And the way that happens is that we allow that experience to come out and we allow that experience to go back in. And when we allow that fully, then we are allowing the flow of things out and back into the incomprehensible whatever that we might call the void. When we allow that to happen completely freely, we have the experience of deep happiness within ourselves. And when we allow it to happen very freely, then it fills us with an energy that naturally serves. And so we create good for others. This is the first explanation of these three superpowers. I mentioned two of them briefly, these two briefly, and mentioned this one in somewhat more detail. The only last thing to say is that you can also hear flow, and if you want to hear